So you've also written a lot of articles for numerous publications, one of which being Adbusters, where you've actually gotten to include some study of anime into that by interviewing, I think his name is Hideaki Anno, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes.
And so he had some interesting comments, and I wouldn't want to call them criticisms, but he said some interesting things about Japanese culture being, a nation without any real male role models. Do you think something like that could ever really happen in America, given how technology kind of gives everybody a voice in the form of, things that might not necessarily diffuse information that well and things like that?
Well, that's a huge question.
I know. But we
we
can edit it out if you want to answer
Yeah, the
it.
iconography of the male
Mm-hmm.
as a kind of symbolic figure in society is changing all over the world.
Yeah.
Numerous reasons for that. Women are doing a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I guess you're at the point now where men aren't even really needed for childbirth, technically.
Yeah, technically.
So that our positions are receding fast.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what Anno is referring to specifically
Mm-hmm.
has to do with a particular post-World War II context,
Right.
whereby obviously having lost the war. A lot of Japanese soldiers never spoke of their experiences or haven't spoken of them until they reached their 80s.
Right.
There was a level of suppression, a lack of discussion of the war.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I often argue is that it was a traumatic experience, the loss of the war, but also the loss of the male figurehead in Japan,
Yeah.
who was formerly divine or considered divine, the emperor, was reduced to this commoner. Essentially.
Yeah.
And my Japanese mother remembers so clearly and so vividly hearing his voice on the radio announcing that Japan had surrendered.
Yeah.
And she said it sounded like such a meek, lonely voice.
Mm-hmm.
And so here was this emperor that, for mostly for ill, I guess, but many Japanese really believed that they were going to win the war.
Yeah.
And that giving up your life for the emperor was unquestionable,
Mm-hmm.
something you just did, because you were Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
And then to hear this voice on the radio saying Japan has surrendered was quite shocking.
I'm sure.
And I think, to take it a step further, in Confucian social structures, the father or the male is the head
Mm-hmm.
of the family, and essentially Japan's male head was decapitated, if you will,
Right.
In that instant. And so I think what Anno is talking about is subsequent generations growing up without this male figurehead.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, many Japanese men who not immediately, but by the 60s and 70s were going to work for the company,
Right.
became company men.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not quite the same as a heroic
Mm-hmm.
father figure.
Yeah.
And I think younger Japanese males in particular are really harshly rejecting the ethics of their father's generation.
Mm-hmm.
They're far less materialistic. They're also growing up at a time when lifetime employment is receding. It's
Right.
a thing of the past, really. And so you see a lot of gender shifts happening within the culture. And
Mm-hmm.
Anno also mentioned that he felt that Japan was a very childlike society, that it was not yet fully adult. And he's an opinionated guy.
Yeah. I've heard he's a very subversive writer and whatnot.
He is. But Anno is also, I think, onto something that Takashi Murakami, the artist Takashi Murakami,
Right.
has also talked about and written about, which is this, the fact that cute culture, kawaii
Mm-hmm.
culture, and again we see lots of it here,
Sure do.
has emanated from post-war Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Suggests something about perhaps Japanese society's self-image,
Right.
perhaps also an unwillingness to embrace an adulthood
Mm-hmm.
that is distinctly unappealing.
Right.
And I'm sort of putting this stuff in a nutshell, but
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I mean,
but,
I know
yeah.
it's kind of like a left field question, but I really wanted to get it in to ask you that.
Actually, Takashi Murakami had his show at the Japan
Yes, he
Society.
did, that's right, yeah.
Very important show
Mhm.
a few years ago.
Now that you're here at the festival, is there anything in particular that you want to see as maybe like a fan of anime as well, or?
Here at the festival?
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, I mean, I enjoy the panels. I enjoy
Mhm.
Participating and introducing,
Mhm.
pop groups and master artists like Yoshiyuki Tomino,
Right.
who I introduced yesterday. But the real pleasure for me is the eye candy.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a salacious way, but seeing all these young Americans, and particularly here in the United States, you see such a range of ethnicities, race, boys and girls.
Right.
I think one of the organizers said it really is roughly 50-50 now, boys and girls attending this thing.
Yeah.
Whereas 10 years ago, it was clearly the boys, the fanboys who came.
Right.
And now you get a lot of girls and young women. You sometimes have families all dressed up in costume.
Right, yeah, I have seen that
yeah,
around.
all shapes and sizes. And that's really exciting to me, because in Japan, generally, cosplayers are, I wouldn't say semi-pro, but amateurs who are, roughly of the same body size, and it's mostly girls, mostly women, cute girls. But here in the United States, the diversity of the country can be seen at a celebration of Japanese culture.
That's a very interesting point there.
Yeah,
Wow,
and that's exciting
I like that.
for me. I mean, it's great to see African Americans and Latino Americans and the whole range and different body shapes and sizes as well, dressed up as anime and manga characters.
And they wear it with the greatest of pride.
With great pride.
And it's a very, anime fans have totally amazed me since being here this weekend. And just on that aspect of, them being able to really kind of be in an area where they know they can uninhibitedly be themselves is really awesome.
And I think also we sometimes think about the internet and cell phone technologies and so on as alienating presences in the 21st century.
Right.
But a lot of people at these festivals communicate over the course of the year via the internet. And they fly into places like New York or Seattle, or they carpool, from several states away to come to this festival and reunite. And I think that's something we should celebrate.
Yes, certainly.
That's a case where the technologies that we have today actually bring us together over our common interests and shared interests, rather than driving us apart.
Certainly. Well, I wanted to thank you again for granting me this interview. Is a really good time speaking with you.
Great.
So this is Mike Newcomb from the Japan Society of New York, and I got to speak with Roland Kelts. Thanks a lot for watching.